Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday's Focus on Finances. My name is Jamie Fleming, and today we're going to talk about the 4 agreements that will help you take back your power. And we're actually talking about the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote this book in 1997. And I was actually introduced to this book over 17 years ago when I was going through a breakup from a long-term relationship. The book was actually introduced to me by a new friend who knew I was going through this, but didn't know the other person involved, but had actually heard about it in our circle of mutual friends. You can imagine this was pretty devastating to me because I was and am a very private person. So the fact that my personal life was being discussed this way felt pretty awful. So the 4 agreements entered my life, and it was perfect because I was able to read it and finish it immediately. It's a very quick read. It was simple, it was easy to follow, and I could implement the teachings right away. And in all actuality, this book really did help me save me from myself. So anyone who has gone through an emotional breakup can probably completely relate to what I'm talking about. However, the more interesting thing that happened was that the teachings inadvertently began helping me in my business and get back on track with my own finances. So clients ask me all the time what I read and what I can recommend. And most of the time, which is true to form, they would expect me to recommend books that are related specifically to finances. And I do have those books on my list, but after many years in my industry, I realized that the books that had the most impact were those written about psychological and behavior related issues, and that these areas were heavily correlated in one's own success in business, in finance, and in relationships. So I thought it appropriate to talk about a book that many people have read at least once. I've read it dozens of times because, as simple as the agreements are, mastering them on a daily basis is another thing. And so, if you're online today, give me a shout out and let me know who you are. I'm actually going live today on our private Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. So, I hope if you're on, you'll say hey and give StreamYard permission so I know who you are. So we're going to get going and really look at how our personal power is based. And our personal power is based on the agreements we make, right? Oftentimes we make those agreements to please others rather than being true to ourselves. When we do this, we actually give away our personal power. The 4 agreements is about taking back our personal power by being authentic and adhering to our true values. And for those of you who have listened to me over the months and the years, who have gone through my Kick the Fear Out of Your Finance course, you've heard me talk about the values pyramid. And the reason why I do that is I want to make sure whatever choices you're making with your finances are matching and in alignment with your values. So it's why we go through that process with our coaching clients. So let's look and see what the 4 agreements are. The 4 agreements are: number 1, be impeccable with your words. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. And number 4, always do your best. And again, these are simple agreements, right? Just by their nature, it's like I can do that. But at the same time, they can be difficult to master. And the author Ruiz, one thing I love about the book, it's really encouraging readers to practice these agreements every day. And in addition to that, forgive ourselves when we're not perfect. Okay, the journey to live the way this way lies in the effort that is taken each day. So as many of you know, talking about finances, it's rarely the one thing that creates our financial success. It's usually all the little things we do every single day that builds upon themselves to create success along our life. So today we're going to look at each of the agreements in a little bit more detail, and we're going to look at how the 4 agreements apply to your finances and how do the 4 agreements apply to being an entrepreneur. And I thought this would just be an interesting way to end the week with all the things we have going on, and see how we can apply some simple things that basically can affect all the areas of your world. So number one, the first agreement, as I mentioned, be impeccable with your word, right? Really simplistically, just speak with integrity, say what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So I love this because impeccable literally means without sin. And a sin is something you do or believe that goes against yourself, right? It means not speaking against yourself, to yourself, or to others. It means not rejecting yourself. To be impeccable means to take responsibility for yourself, to not participate in the blame game. Regarding the word, the rules of action related apply, right? What you do or what you put out energetically will return to you. So, proper use of the word creates proper use of energy. Putting out love and gratitude perpetuates the same in the universe, right? The converse is also true. So, impeccability starts at home. I'm always telling my kids the way you show up today is the way you show up every day, right? So look at what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're treating others, how you're treating yourself. Be impeccable with yourself, and that will reflect in your life and your relationship with others. This agreement can help change thousands of other agreements, especially ones that create fear instead of love. So, what's interesting about this first agreement is that I think on a conscious level, most people work towards being kind to others, right? Be impeccable with your word kind of alludes to, yes, I should be kind to others. When I'm in the heat of the moment, the words we say can have lasting impact. When we're raising children, we have stresses, but when we bring that stress and it comes out in a way that we may look back later and think, I could have said that differently. So being impeccable with our words, I think on that level, most of us would agree is important. But the interesting thing for me, and I have examples of me growing up and as a business owner working with clients, is that being impeccable with your words is also related to how we treat ourselves. Be impeccable with yourself is so important. And I'll share a personal story of growing up because when I read this book, immediately it resonated with me in this way. And some of you in my world, my friends who are on the Focus on Finances, Friday's Focus on Finances, they've met my mom or my circle of friends. My mom comes to visit. We're very close. Growing up, though, my mom used to say this thing that just would make me cringe. And she would be doing something and maybe it wouldn't come out quite right. And she'll say, "Oh, Janet, you're so stupid." Right? And her name's Janet. So she's talking to herself from a third person, telling her either that thing was stupid or that she was stupid. And it would happen on a semi-regular basis, right? And every time I would hear her or overhear her, it would make me feel so terrible for her because I think, why is my mom talking about herself that way? Because she's clearly not. And it just didn't feel good as a child to hear my parent refer to herself as being stupid. So this went on throughout the years, and I think it was either middle school or high school when I finally told my mom, "Mom, when I hear you say this to yourself, it just literally makes me want to cringe because that's so not who you are." She's brilliant, she's creative, she's kind, she's selfless, but yet she wasn't being impeccable with her words to herself. And so I brought that to her attention, and she literally didn't realize she was doing it. So, what I want to bring out to you is that we can be very hard on ourselves. We have this voice sometimes that makes us not feel confident in things that we believe in and are passionate about. And sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. Even though she was saying it out loud, she consciously didn't realize she was doing it, but it was so ingrained. And an interesting thing happened when I brought this to her attention is that, for one, she didn't want me to hear her say that about herself. She didn't want her child to feel like something was cringeworthy. But here's the other thing that happened. She then became conscious of what she was doing, and she would go to do it out of habit, and then she was be able to stop herself. And then she realized what was happening. In business, what I've realized with my financial planning clients and investment clients is that we're very hard on ourselves. And there's a lot of shame with finances, and we've made mistakes, and then we hold on to that. And then we talk about things like, I'm never going to get out of debt, or I'm never going to be able to retire, or I'm never going to be able to own a home. And when we do that, if we think about it being reflective, what we put out comes back, then we're saying all these things that we can't do. And so we're being very hard on ourselves and being very judgmental on ourselves versus let's look at a solution. Let's look at things, actions that we can do every single day to change that. And then it's one of the things we do in our Kick the Fear Out of Finances course is changing our old belief systems from the negative to the positive. And so instead of saying, for example, I'm never going to get out of debt, we can look back and say, I can make small changes every single day to become debt free. And it's just a different feeling, and it's action oriented. So being impeccable with your words, I think, is one of the things that we need to look at the most, above and beyond knowing we should be kind to others and remembering we also need to be kind to ourselves. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. Boy, was this tested in my world, as I explained, reading through this, going through a breakup. But having these words available to me were very powerful, because the book basically says that nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own situation or dream. We typically take things personally when we agree with what others have said. When we don't agree, the things that others say cannot affect us emotionally. And this was difficult. I'm thinking, well, I don't agree with it. That's why it's bugging me. But the reality is, if we actually look at the thing, then there's probably some truth to it in our own world. And it's why we're allowing it to affect us. When we do not care about whether others think about us, their words or behavior cannot affect us, right? When someone yells at you, gossips about you, harms you or yours, it still is not about you. Their actions and words are based on what they believe in their personal life, right? Our personal belief system is developed to hopefully make us feel safe. So when people have beliefs that are different from our own, it can lend itself to all kinds of emotions. We could get scared, become defensive, and try to impose our own point of view on the other person. When someone gets angry with us, it's typically because our belief system is challenging their belief system. So they might get scared or defensive or try to change and help make us change to their point of view. So they're trying to defend their point of view. We are less likely to become angry, create conflict, expend energy arguing simply by being aware of this situation, right? And so the book talks about practice forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is a promise, not a feeling. Forgiveness is a promise not to use the past against the other person, and just as importantly, using the past against yourself, right? The book talks about be able to apologize. I think this is so powerful in personal life and business life. Apologizing doesn't always mean that you are wrong and the other person is right. Apologizing means that you value your relationship with them more than your ego. And boy, oh boy, is this something that hit home, right? It's something that I work on all the time with communication, and I'm still a work in progress. But what I realize is that conflict usually comes when we're not when we're not seeing the other person's side, but when we think they're not seeing ours, when there could be, a way to be able to come to terms with what's happening. So this yin and yang of right and wrong when you're talking about your belief system, sometimes we have to remember that it's about perspective, right? It's about someone else's belief system being one way and yours being the other, and they both can be equally valid and relevant, even if they are in conflict with each other. So I think when we look at not taking something personally that someone else is saying, reminding ourselves that this is about ego, it's a hard thing to look at, right? And so this is very important in business. And this is something, this second agreement really actually saved me from a lot of sleepless nights in terms of my work, in terms of my business. And I say this because I learned early on in finance that finances are really stressful for most people, for people that are struggling with earning money and saving. And it's, people don't think so, but people that earn a good sizable amount of money, and I have them as clients, they are also stressed about finances. And part of the reasoning is, as I talk to more and more business owners and high income earning individuals, is the realization that most people come from the same place of not having a financial foundation to work on. Most families don't talk about finances as a family with their children. So it self-perpetuates these decades and generational ways of dealing with finances, and that's on the fly. So I make an effort in my household, and I've done this since my kids were young, at age appropriate, in age appropriate ways, is to talk to them about money. You know, take them to the grocery store and show them the difference between buying a name brand item versus a non-name brand item, just in the cost difference. Looking at how much we pay for marketing, look at how much things really cost. My kids love carrots, so we had a whole discussion on baby carrots, the ones that look really pretty and are already cut and done in the packages versus getting the ones that have just been pulled from the ground, right? You still have to go home and wash them and take care of them. And looking at the difference on that level really helps your kids figure out the value of money and just starting the conversation. So in our household, we talk about money and finance a lot, and it's normal for us. It's not stressful. And you can talk about turning off the lights because that's wasting energy and that actually costs money, and talking about what are you willing to put in for something that you really want, so that they can feel responsible, and oftentimes lends to them taking care of things better. So looking at not taking things personally, getting back to this in my business, when I have developed plans for clients that tell me what their goals are, a wide array of emotions, from breaking down crying, and it's male or female. I've had both happen in my office. I always keep Kleenex in my office now, from getting super upset and walking out. And at first, when that was happening, I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like, I've offended them. They're mad at me, all these things. And after reading this book, what I realized is they were going through their own personal journey around what was happening, around the stress of dealing with their finances. And much of that was because of the first agreement. They haven't been impeccable with their words to themselves, and there's been a lot of shame. So you take that first agreement of not being impeccable with your words to yourself, and you bring it to the next piece of not taking it personally, is that ebb and flow of energy that people interact with each other. And so this agreement really helped me stay grounded for my clients, and realizing that they're just going through stress. So I used to give stress balls away, still do, but I used to give them away, and it had my logo and it actually had my picture on it. And after reading this and after implementing the stress ball scenario with my clients, it was like, just go ahead and take the stress out on the stress ball, right? Be easy on yourself, be gentle on yourself. You didn't know what you didn't know. And you could be completely brilliant in other areas and still have trouble with your finances. It's just the nature of the beast because we just haven't been trained as a society to make financial education and financial foundation an important part of our growing up in the world. So remember to be easy on yourself and don't take things personally when they come to you. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. This is so good on so many levels, right? Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. And just let me tell you, whether it's interpersonal relationships on a personal level, business level, this is so key. And I find that when, arguments come about, usually it's from a misunderstanding. And this doesn't even mean that when you communicate as clearly as you can, that it's still going to translate exactly to the other person, right? Because we have different experiences. We have different ways of getting to whatever the issue is. And so the idea is to keep asking questions, keep expressing yourself so that you can fine tune. I've been asked, how do you feel about something? And it's just interesting that in business, I'm used to asking other people that question, right? I'm used to asking my clients, where is it that you want to go? When do you want to retire? What are some of your big purchase items that you have coming up, whether it's a house, whether it's a car, second home, college for your kids, all these things. I'm used to asking all the questions. And in a relationship, if you're in a relationship where communication is important, which it is for me, I'm being asked, how do you feel about this, or how do you want this to look? And I'm out of practice. I found that I'm out of practice in expressing myself. So sometimes it's okay to say, I'm not sure. But then, you have to take some time to look at this, because when we make assumptions, it's because we believe we know what the other's person is thinking or feeling, right? We believe we know their point of view, their dream. We forgot that our beliefs are just our point of view based on our belief system and our own personal experiences that have nothing to do with what others think and feel. So we cannot assume that the other person knows what's going on for us, right? We make the assumptions that everybody judges us, abuses us, maybe victimizes us, and blames us the way we do ourselves. As a result, we reject ourselves before others have the chance to reject us. This is part of the potential problem, right? When we think this way, it becomes difficult to be ourselves in the world. So the only thing that you can do is practice, right? Communication is what I call a practiced sport, right? You get better and better and better at it. And it's one thing that I appreciate about this book. And it's another thing I appreciate about the friendships and interpersonal relationships that I have in my life. But it's also made me appreciate how I work with my clients. And the reality is, I like to know people's why. I like to know my clients' why. Because even if I have 5 clients that have the exact same number goals, let's say, their reasons to getting to that place can be completely different. So if I just assume that everybody works the same way, I'm not going to be very effective as a financial advisor for them, or a business coach, or whatever the scenario is. So it's really important, we take action and we be clear to others about what you want or don't want, right? And of course, should be obvious, not to gossip and make assumptions about things that other people tell you, right? So have your own experience. And this is a good business tool as well, because I will have people refer clients to me and they know them on one level. Maybe it's a friendship level or a business level. And oftentimes the person referring the person to me, they want to give me background, or give me a heads up. Maybe they consider them a difficult person, Maybe I don't want them as a client. And I always tell people, let us have our own experience. If they're willing to make an appointment with me and sit down, we'll figure out if we're a good fit or not. And then we can move from there. Because I've had some people tell me, I don't know if you're going to want to work with them. They're really stubborn. They really are stuck in their own ways. And interestingly enough, many times I don't have the experience that the person referring has, right? Because they're coming to me for my expertise. So they're already on that level. So maybe their guard's down a little bit, or maybe their guard's up because they're used to doing it their own way, but they haven't received or achieved the results that they want. So I almost like it when I don't know a whole lot about the person coming in, because I don't want that to persuade how I react with them. So if we don't make assumptions that way and we fine tune how we talk, and by the way, it's also okay. I've had to do this where I've said, you know what, I think this is what I need and what I want, and then realize after I've thought about it, wasn't really accurate. So it's even more important to come back to the table and say, hey, I know I said this, but I think this is more accurate because now that I've thought about it, I've become clear. And you can do this in your relationships with business and your clients as well. Because as you have conversations with people, you can say, it sounds like this is what you're looking to do versus what we started out doing. And that's okay. And first and foremost, respect other points of view and avoid arguing just to be right, right? Respect yourself and be honest with yourself, and stop expecting the people around you to know what's in your head, right? Because as much as we'd like to think we're intuitive to a certain extent, there's other things going on that we may have no idea. I know that's true for me with my clients. And sometimes things have happened and I'll ask my director of operations, I'm like, what just happened? Right? I had a client get very, very upset, fairly new client. And the reality is that he was just so upset at himself for not knowing the things that I was showing him he could be doing. But he was upset at himself. But it came out, as if he was upset with me. So this really does help you stay grounded and really hopefully be able to come back to the table. Good news is this is now a long-term client of mine. And we worked through that by continuing the communication, figuring out what was going on and what was really upsetting him. So this is something that I'm constantly, like I said, constantly working on and constantly striving to improve. The last agreement, the fourth agreement, is always do your best. Your best changes from moment to moment. So your best is different when you're healthy as opposed to sick, when you're stressed as opposed to being relaxed. Simply do your best under any circumstance to avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Okay, doing your best means enjoying the action. Enjoy the action without expecting any kind of reward from what it is you're doing. The pleasure comes from doing what you like in life and having fun, not from the reward or compensation. So we have to look at enjoy the path traveled, and the destination will literally take care of itself. So living in the moment and releasing the past helps us do the best we can in the moment. It allows us to be fully alive right now, enjoying what is present, not worrying about the past and what's already happened, but also equally important, not worrying about the future, right? First and foremost, have patience with yourself. And then this is my favorite part of doing your best: be consistent and persistent with meaningful action. If you do your best always, transformation will happen as a matter of course. Now, you can imagine, obviously, we can apply this on a personal level, but if you've listened to me speak about finances, I'm always talking about your success, your financial success, more than not, will come from all the little things you do every single day. And as you build those action steps upon each other, your success will grow and grow and grow. It's usually not something that is done in immediate 24-hour fix. If you have $30,000 in credit card debt, most likely it took you a bit of time to accumulate that debt, right? So the reverse is also true. What got you in that debt was probably all the little things you did along the way, and then you found yourself in $30,000 credit card debt. So the reverse to that, barring winning the lotto or getting some lump sum that you weren't expecting, barring that and being able to just plump it down, getting rid of the debt is going to require you to look at doing things every single day, consistently, persistently, and knowing that this meaningful action will, in the long run, get you out of the credit card debt. And even better than that, you've now created a new habit that once that's done, you can then put that money away for yourself. As a business owner, same thing applies. It's all the little things that you do each day as a business owner to create the business that you really want, the type of clients that you really want, and the success that you really want. It's usually something that happens over time and when you're consistent doing it. So I hope this helps. If you've read the book before, I encourage you to read it again. There are always things to learn, and it's interesting that a book of this simplistic nature, and it's small, you can get it on Amazon on Kindle for less than $5 now. This is a book, I've had the same book for 17 years, but I also have it on audio. I also have it electronically on my devices, so I can access this anytime that I want. And it's good to revisit. It's good to read when you're having a hard time. It's just one of those small Bibles that you can keep with you and really look at mastering these 4 agreements every single day to create the life that you want, whether it's personal relationships, business success, or financial success. So look at doing all these things on a daily basis. I'm happy I got to share this with you, a little bit of insight into my life and what brings transformation for me. And again, don't forget to ask for help. I did not do this alone. One of my first mentors, Doug Davidson, who I've known for over 25 years, the best advice he ever gave me, and I have a magnet rock on my refrigerator that he gave me 25 years ago that says, ask for help. And it's a reminder. Simple, right? But I still have to practice those and be reminded of these little things every day as well. So get a group of people that are supportive of you, get a team available for your business, hire financial advisors, tax people, estate planning people, get your team for finances, review your risk management. All the little things will help create long-term success in all areas of your life. Thank you for being here. If you're listening to the replay, make your comments. Let me know how this has impacted you. If you've read the book before, if you're reading it for the first time, give me some insight on how it's helped. And if I can help in any way, reach out. As you know, we do complimentary consultations, so take advantage of that as soon as possible. Again, my name is Jamie Fleming. This was this week's Friday's Focus on Finances. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a terrific weekend.